Welcome to the Elegance Of Nae podcast. I'm your host, Nae, and on this podcast, we talk about a variety of topics with amazing stories. Let's get into it, shall we? Hey guys, before we begin the show, we just want to give a quick shout out to TC's Art Gallery. That is T as in Tom, C as in Cat, S as in Sam, Art Gallery. They do amazing social media advertisement, logo design, website design, and they even help with social media management. Check them out today at tcsartgalleryllc.square.site. All right, let's start the show. Welcome back to the Elegance Of Nae podcast. I am your host, Nae, and we have someone lovely in the building today. We have the one and only Miss Hilary in the building. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. How are you mentally and physically today?
Oof, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like the best, or ooh, I would say mentally at a 6.
Okay.
Physically 7. I think you said emotionally or spiritually. I think both at about an 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know today's a way better day than days previously.
And it's nice outside today. It's lovely.
I feel like that is probably the reason behind a lot of those higher numbers, right? Because you've got the sunshine,
you get warmness, nice breeze.
Of course, a little dance.
Air blowing.
Right, exactly. You get to strut your stuff, 1000%.
So it's the new year. How's the new year been treating you so far?
For all those at home, that was a nice, decent pause. It's in all things, so far, it's okay. I mean, the year has been a bit bumpy, at least professionally. And of course, that somehow has seeped into my personal of just, overall how I'm thinking and feeling of the year. So I'm trying to separate that out of like personally, things are good.
That's good.
Right? Again, there are some things that could be better, right? But I think that's for all of us. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give so far 2024 about a 6. Like she could be better, but I feel that she'll get there.
Absolutely, because it's about to be summer soon, about to get warmer.
It is.
So we got some elegantness coming in, some relaxation possibly.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Yes,
I know. Literally yesterday, I looked on my calendar and I was like, okay, there's this particular sauna here in town that I'd like to go to relax, right? They do massages there and facials too. And so I was like, okay, get back on your like monthly trip there. Take a full day off of work, spend the whole Tuesday there that you can just give back to yourself and just kind of unplug from the world. So yes, that's in the future for sure.
That's definitely well needed. And that's well needed for anybody. If you are a busy body or a busy person in general, take that me time out for a mental space, physical relaxation, something. Because if you are running, your body will just shut down for you. So
it will in very drastic ways.
Absolutely.
Learn that the hard way.
I learned that the hard way as well. So yeah, I totally agree. So let's start from the beginning. Are you born and raised from Detroit?
I am not. Sorry, everyone. I know she is not a Detroiter, but I born and raised in Toledo, Ohio.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so not too terribly far from Detroit. And lately, I've been telling a lot of folks that I'm from Detroit's most southern suburb, which again, I'll pause for any groans or laughter from folks when they hear that. Because it is kind of funny of like, yeah, Detroit's most southern suburb might just happen to be Toledo, Ohio, which is wild. But that's where I was born and raised.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how was the transition from you living there until here? Like what age were you when you moved to Detroit?
Oh, well, that's kind of in 2 parts. And I know, folks, this is where I'm going to do the caveat of Metro Detroit was my first entree to the area, and that was for undergrad. I went to Eastern Michigan. Oh, nice. Go Eagles. We love to see it. So that was when I was 18, and I left Michigan when I was about 22, and I moved to Pittsburgh.
Oh, nice.
And so when I moved back to the area and I made it the point to move to Detroit proper, I was like, I'm not living in the suburbs. Again, this is not a shade on anyone out there in Metro Detroit area, but I wanted to be in the city.
Yeah.
And so when I came and moved here in, oh my gosh, 2 years ago, so 31, wild. So when I moved here, I was like, I'm making that the point to be here in the city, to live and work, and to make sure I'm pouring back into businesses and to the people that were here before I was.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
So how were you as a kid though in Toledo, Ohio? Like how were you growing up from middle school, going into high school? How were you as a kid? Were you like a open social butterfly or more to yourself?
Definitely more of an open social butterfly.
Okay.
I played sports. I had tried my hand in the theater. Apparently, in theater, you have to be on stage and project your voice and sing. And that clearly was just not me as a child. I tended to be more behind the scenes for that, but definitely energetic. I'm one of two, but my mom is one of eight. And so, like, I grew up around all of my cousins. And so we were always just all around each other. And so family is like a huge part of my middle school to high school and just all aspects of my life, who I am today. So again, sorry, not sorry, everyone. Like you can blame it on my family if you like.
I feel like that brings out the character of where you are now with how you're so embraced with the community because you have such a big family to be surrounded by and that love and support.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think over time, what I've come to learn as one gets older and you reflect on everything, yes, it's the family you may or may not have been born into, you're blood related, but it's also the family that you bring in. So I think to your point, that community aspect, who do I want on my bench or in my circle, and bringing in those folks and treating them like, like family, like how I would, right? And so family comes in all shapes and sizes in my book, and that's been my kind of thing throughout the years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how was the transition for you from high school and going into college? Was that like a massive hit for you going into adulthood, or was like a nice little ease smoothing groove in?
It's so hard. Ooh. You're having me go back into 2009, right? I think it was an easier transition. I think due in part because I only lived maybe an hour away from my family. And I think that was super important to be close. So the transition in that regard was not that difficult. And I think even just schooling wasn't that difficult. Like I knew going into college, I was on the path to like doctoral degree or bust. As an aside, everyone, I do not have my doctoral degree. That is a dream that has been a goal put on the back burner for now. But I had a very like specific goal in mind. And so going into college was it was an easy transition. The first year was mainly academics. Did make a lot of friends in the dorms and other activities, but like once sophomore year hit, like I was in almost every other club and activity imaginable, and really try to like bridge across different connections on Eastern's campus.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So what did you go to college for?
Psychology.
Oh, I love psychology.
Yes.
I love it. What made you go for that degree?
So it all kind of like leads back to high school. There was a very interesting pivotal moment. We had child soldiers come speak to our school back in Toledo, and hearing them talk about their stories and just their resilience. I mean, and they were adults by the time that they were talking with us, but like to imagine as a child being, taken from your home, thrust into a war where you are at the front lines and basically being sacrificed.
Yeah.
And how they were able to escape the whole 9 yards. But they came out not hating the world, resilient. They acknowledged of what happened and that was terrible. But they had so much hope and optimism.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in that auditorium going, I would love to study more of that. I would love to study more of particularly populations around refugees, internally displaced folks, migrant workers, you name it, like folks who are incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so from there, I'd wanted to study psychology and figure out how we can study more about those particular populations what type of mental health and public health programming is essential for, their own quality of life, and to make sure like we can get them back into their homes. And so that's kind of how and why I got into psychology, was for me to better understand resiliency, PTSD, trauma, and I think now everyone's talking about trauma-informed care. And so that's kind of like the base of why I had gone into psychology.
That sounds awesome. I feel like with psychology, it dissects in so many ways, shapes, and forms that it's really captivating, and it's very like interesting, where you want to learn more. I know that was a huge thing for me when I tapped into psychology in high school. Well, not high school, college actually, because I went for child psychology, because I wanted to start from the beginning.
Okay.
To see how it is for kids first, because sometimes in a lot of situations it starts when you are a kid to build up to where you are as an adult, depending on what you went through, rather trauma wise or something drastic in your life. So I always wanted to learn from the beginning, compared to then. Actually, I got that wrong. Let me rephrase. I was going originally for clinical psychology and minoring in child development. There we go. Had to switch it to.
I know, you're good.
Yeah. Had to make sure.
I saw the through line. Have no fear. I saw that.
Yeah. So I was going originally for that because I wanted to have something under my belt when I started my mentoring program. To actually, that's kind of what a little bit sparked it. But then, of course, COVID happened. Things kind of went up and down. And it was a lot harder to do a lot of my classes virtually. And I'm an in-person, hands-on learner compared to virtual, don't have to be there learner.
Right.
Because I learn better that way based off seeing. So, yeah, I love psychology, though. I think it's a very cool major.
Definitely. Well, sometimes the fundamentals, and I'm sure folks would disagree with me, but I think to your point, it's the basis of like understanding who and what a person is, and the makeup and how and why they might do something.
Yeah.
Right. Do we have those coping mechanisms? Do we, how all that is built in, but then also how our behavior can change over time.
Exactly.
Right. Depending on whatever that is. And so I love that. And I hope your path might take you back that way or continue to lead you on that, because I think that is something that is a spark within you that I know that you have a passion for. So
yeah, I've been getting asked that if I was ever going to finish my credits out, because I wind up gracefully having a scholarship to do child development. So I went to do that, and I was like, I had a full ride. That literally, once the pandemic happened, that full ride went up and down. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna take a pause. It was stressing me out, so I was like, I'll wait till it's the right time if I do want to go back.
Exactly.
So, and that's a big step too.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
That's a lot of like inner and self work to be able to get to that point of like, is to your point, is it the right time? But not also, do I want to? Or is this the particular path I want to go back down if I do go back?
So, yeah, that's very true.
I get that.
Now, far as like once how was the transition for you from college into your current role right now of what you do? Like, how was it?
Buckle in, everyone. So I did I don't want to call it the stupid thing, because it wasn't stupid. We'll call it the later in life in undergrad. So of course I was on the track clinical psychology and like PhD or bust. We're doing research projects, we're presenting at conferences, like we're just all in it to win it. And because of that, I took all of my like psych department prerequisites early. So the last like year and a half at school, I was finally doing like all the what they would call like your gen eds, or like your non-affiliated major and minor classes. And one of the classes I took, because I had this very international and global mindset, and I wanted to work abroad, so I took a class on peace, poverty, or was it health, human rights? Something along the lines of like health, human rights, and poverty, or something that was offered at Eastern. So it was a poli-sci course. And I was like, okay, Hill, you want to do international work. You have yet to be international. What are the classes that are going to set you up for success later? So when you eventually do go abroad, at least like you're trying to build out even more like cultural competency skills.
Yeah.
And a better understanding, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I don't ever want to be that person who goes into a place and going, I know the solutions. No, no, no. Like the people who are already there have the solutions.
Yeah.
So making sure like that was always the focal point. So I take this class. As it always happens with most people in college or in other ways, you take a poli-sci course and you go, I think I may have messed up. I think I'm on the wrong track. I went to go see my professor during office hours because, yes, I was that person who went to office hours. Fine, we wear that badge probably. But I went and talked to him and he goes, Hilary, I don't think you need a PhD to do what you want to do. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, Rich, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on? He's like, yeah, like if you want to do like mental health programming, you want to do like kind of group therapy, or you want to like explore this other world, he was like, you don't need your clinical doctorate for that. He goes, you can go into something called international development. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, you just need your master's. I was like, Rich, I need you to go back to the beginning.
Like, make this make sense for
right. Like, help me here with the through line. And so my last year of college, I was taking macroeconomics, microeconomics, intro to international relations, you name it, every sort of poli-sci classes and even more statistics so I could be set up for success, because I eventually went on to policy school. And that's what led me to Pittsburgh. Did international development. And so as you were talking earlier about child development, I once wrote a paper on the definition of development. And I talked about just even from the psychology standpoint of child development. And that's just kind of how I viewed international development as well, of going back to the basics. Like, how are you ensuring that the child, or ensuring that this community is getting its basic necessities and essentials? And that's like how I could equate and kind of transfer my knowledge over. And of course, folks, I do not work in international development at this moment. But what eventually I will get there. But how even just that transition was seamless to now where I'm at in kind of nonprofit management and ecosystem building. There's still that development piece. How do you engage, develop, and build community? And that's just always been the through line. Now that I'm thinking about it, thank you, Nae, for making me think on a Tuesday. But that's been that transition. And so in a lot of ways, while there are challenges and barriers and days where I just like want to, throw a pillow on my couch and just like in frustration, this is still good work. This is the work that I am meant to be doing, even if some days I'm like, is this the right path?
Yeah.
And so the transition each time, yes, has been a bit bumpy and, imposter syndrome-y, but it's always been good work. And to make sure, again, like not to take, but to give, and to make sure we're leaving things better than like how we like came into it.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that made sense in terms of like transition and just having gratitude throughout the whole process.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's just noticing that, your knowledge is key in it all. Knowing that it's okay to keep pushing through. It's okay to not be okay in moments. It's okay to keep trying. Yeah, it is okay to not be okay. And yes, that sounds weird for most to say that, but it's true. We have our moments where we get put down, or we have moments that try to drag us down, but we're still trying to push through that ladder or keep climbing the ladder. And we keep going because we got a vision. We had a vision. I feel like if anyone ever have a moment where you are feeling down or questioning where you should go, just look back, take a moment, and go back to your spark of what made you go into what you're doing. Because I feel like if you do that, it will inspire you to keep going again when you're at your worst moment.
I snap into that one. And I know we had talked about this before.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's going on the recording, but
you're good.
It's so fascinating because I know like you and I've been trying to get this scheduled, I think, since the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd relayed to you was the beginning of the year would not be giving as much energy like
As you are
is as
now.
I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it has to do with, okay, what was that spark? Or like what was the catalyst that made you continue on this? And I think
Mm-hmm.
I had to go back through and have that self-reflection of like, you like you got into this because X, Y, and Z,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna be okay by the end of it.
Yeah.
But just like have that as your North Star. So thank you for saying that out loud too, of
Yeah.
that spark of that initial fire in your belly to make you want to do this work
Mm-hmm.
and to not let that fire go.
Yeah, because I've been having to remind myself of that too. And sometimes you really do need that reminder. Or
Mm-hmm.
even if you know if you're going through a lot or very busy, write it down on something you look at every day. Rather, write it on a sticky note and put it on your mirror when you get up in the morning. Whether you put it at your front door before you leave out, wherever you normally see have your eyes at in the morning, or wherever you are, plaster that on your wall or plaster it near whatever that device or item is to remind you to keep going. It's
See,
okay.
I like that. And it I'm gonna have to go home and switch out my sticky notes by the door that says, "Did you remember to turn off the stove?" And now it'll be, "Hey, like, don't forget that spark." And I
Yeah.
can switch out. Thank you. See, spring cleaning, I can switch out my sticky notes.
Absolutely. So, what are 5 things that you love most about yourself?
Nay. Oh, 5 things I love most about myself. That is not a journal prompt I have at all, but I probably should do. I I like to think, hopefully, one of the things I love about myself, and that's true for others when they meet me, is someone who's caring and thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that about me, or at least that I try to really do that. Not gonna lie, I really love my smile, especially when I get to wear lipstick. Had to throw that little one in there.
Yeah.
I It's so weird to talk about yourself. Sorry, everyone.
You're good.
I really like that I'm compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
I know I could be a lot more compassionate, but I think that's something I really value about myself. And I'm a really good dancer. Not really, but like what I love about myself is I'm not afraid to kind of like go out there and just like
Be open.
be open and like
Yeah.
I say dancing jokingly, but not
Mm-hmm.
really, to be the first on the dance floor. Anytime I hear music, I'm like, I want to go out. And so I like that about
Yeah.
myself that
Your
I
confidence.
maybe that it is deep down. I don't think I am a confident person, but at least like when
Mm.
it comes to just being out there
And open.
and open and
Free.
dancing free,
I can't think
yes.
of the actual word, but I know exactly.
That kind of
Yeah.
aspect,
I
yes.
love it. I love that. And that's actually very beautiful. At least you are able to like, even though it didn't come exactly right to mind, you still know exactly your key elements that you focus on that you really love most about you.
Mhm.
So that's a great thing too.
Definitely. I mean, good Lord, I really will have to go home and think more about that. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of us need to think more about it too.
Yeah. When
Uh,
we have those moments.
yes. And, at the end of the day, you have to love yourself,
Hmm.
right? So others can come in and love you at the same time. You have to be
Yeah,
comfortable with you. So that's a really
absolutely.
good prompt. Dang.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us, when we have those moments where we're not feeling as easy or not feeling like ourselves, we should always either have a day where we sit down and do like 5 steps that I love about us, about myself, 10 steps of, or 5 steps of what I want to work more on for myself,
Mm,
and then always go back to that checklist to see if you did them, or to follow up with yourself just to see if you would like to elevate, or if you notice if you're elevating. Because sometimes we write down something that we're working on and then we forget what we are trying to work on until we look back and we already actually worked on it and
hmm.
without even realizing.
Those
So
are
I
the
feel like
best
that's a
ones.
really cool little tip to try to help elevate yourself or bring a smile if it doesn't work.
Absolutely. And what about you, Nay?
Five things I love about myself is that one, I have a big heart.
Mm.
Two, I've embraced more of my confidence of like really pushing myself.
Okay.
Um, Three, I'm very open-minded.
Mm.
I just got into that, so don't come for me, guys. I just gotten better with that. Four, I am very helpful. I love serving.
Mhm.
Like I love going to church serving. I love helping others, especially like if I see you need help, if I can, I will,
Right.
or I will offer. And five, I would say the elegance keeps growing. So it's not really a specific five, but I know that the more I grow and heal, the more
Mhm.
I evolve, the more the elegance keeps adding on to that list. So
Well, I was even going to say number 5 is elegance. It's
yeah.
being elegant,
Yeah.
right? It's the essence of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all a journey.
Yeah. It is. It took me a while to get back to this version of myself, especially with a lot that took place before I got in here. So
Mhm.
that definitely shows a key point.
It's shout out break time. We want to give our love and support to Grind and Hustle Youth, LLC. They help ages 15 and older with business etiquette skills as far as building your resume, helping with your dress attire, and make sure you're ready to go for a job interview. They also have classes too. If you're a member, you can join their music class, their podcasting class, first aid, CPR, and so much more. Check out their website today at grindhustleYouth.square.site. All right, back to the show.
So in the beginning, we had you choose between the numbers 1 through 10,
Mhm.
and you chose three. And number three is, what are your next steps in life and business? What are your goals? Oh,
You're okay. Hold on. I have to rearrange myself here.
sorry.
Next steps. I mean, this is exciting to talk about because it's still very much an idea,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been contemplating recently. I don't want to say starting my own consulting firm, but at least I know. I know.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more so of just taking that leap of faith
Yeah.
to be more of a consultant or just some sort of sole proprietor, right? And working with startups, small businesses, nonprofits, you name it,
Mm-hmm.
kind of working on their back end. So all of the
Mm.
things like infrastructure wise, right? That capacity building aspect
Yeah.
and more like technical assistance. So that's something I'm very excited about, at least in that perspective. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because again, like my ultimate dream goal where I want to be in life is to do a lot of the work I do now, but to do it internationally.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, big time. And I'm in this particular season of my life where I've been, looking um, at roles at various organizations
Mm-hmm.
and yes, interviewing here and there, but like not sticking the landing, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I'm slowly coming to the realization of, okay, well, while you're not meant to be in those organizations quite yet, what can I be doing to build out my own
Mm-hmm.
portfolio or to build my strengths?
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking maybe it is we just go off and I'm a consultant and try to get clients and
Yeah.
figure out that life. And I never thought, this is the wildest thing, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur that type of way.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to support others. I never
Yeah.
thought like
Doing it
doing
yourself.
it myself. And it's
That's a
wild.
huge step, but that's an awesome step, and I am so here for it. Like as soon as you said that, I instantly thought of some great helpful tips that can help with you if you
Mhm.
ever want any, or
Oh, thank you.
peers to even like shadow to get advice from. I know a few people or colleagues. I think that's awesome. I was so
Yeah.
excited for you. I'm like strongly rooting for that completely. What inspired you or sparked the interest of that though? Like right away? Was it instantly or was it over time you thought of it?
definitely over time. And it's definitely been over the past, I would say 2-3 years that I've given that consideration. Again, I always thought that I would join an international consulting firm and be able to do projects that way. But I think being here in Detroit, being in this type of like tech and entrepreneurial ecosystem and seeing that like, oh, I can do this too. I can take this leap and start my own thing and, you know, have connections to get me to where I need to go on my journey. So definitely the past 2-3 years.
That sounds
become more of a
that sounds
realization.
amazing. Yeah, that sounds really amazing. So also in the beginning, we had you pull or pick a number between 1 through 11, and you pulled accomplishments. So what are some amazing accomplishments that you've had either overall in your life or recently?
For all those listening in, I stunned at this moment. Accomplishments.
Yeah.
Oh, this is right up there with like top 5 things I like about myself. I love about myself. Oh my gosh. Okay, some accomplishments. Well, and they're going to vary, right? Because accomplishments can be a whole slew of things, right? I think an accomplishment is being able to live on my own.
Absolutely.
I think that, and especially in this day and age, and I'm not saying it lightly either, like that I think to me is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's one. Professionally, this was a few years ago, I was awarded a 30 under 30 with the Pittsburgh Business Times.
Hey,
that's right. You're looking at the 30 under 30 winner.
Yes.
No big deal. So that, not that I hold that like as a huge high regard, but that is an accomplishment that I hold dear, but I don't tell a lot of people. And another one is, and I don't do it as much anymore, or at least like the competitive side of it, but I was on a competitive salsa dance team at one point.
Oh,
I know.
Yes,
she did the thing. And that I really loved. Again, as someone who had small dreams as a kid to, do theater, but stayed more towards the back. And as someone who still chooses to be more towards the back, like dancing gave me that opportunity.
Yeah.
To fully put myself into the music, to dance with my partner and our team and, do performances, try to make it to, other competitions. So that was an accomplishment.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And as much as I hate that I'm going to admit this, yeah, I can't believe this. I think another accomplishment though for me is having been moved back closer to my family. For a very long time, I wanted to be further and further away. And I think personally, an accomplishment, it's a small win of acknowledging that it's okay for me to move closer to home.
Yeah.
That family is important to me. And so even though I tried to push it away, and just like kind of move on with my own career, I can still do both at the same time. So I think like that's been an accomplishment as well, as just coming to a better understanding with myself.
Yeah. I feel like that's really awesome. You have, I'm pretty sure you have like plenty to go down that entire list. Because if like speaking as far as like either in general, like far as either graduating, moving out, having your own things, whatever, it's like I think any accomplishment is always like the biggest thing. First of all, acknowledging your accomplishments is a big thing too.
Oh, that part.
When we have moments to actually sit down and acknowledge, oh wow, I did do that. Like,
I don't know if you were looking at my messages earlier today with a friend, but we were just talking about that, of the whole, I didn't really think I did a lot, but now that I reflect and look back, you go, oh wow, I really did do the things, but then I also did a lot of the things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if this is just like like 2024 culture, just like the past couple of years. But, everything's a little fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we lose sight of all of that. And so it's important to be able to slow down, to meditate, to write down in your journal or sticky notes or whatever to remind yourself of that.
Yeah, that is very true. Because it's crazy because my aunt, she had to pause me, I would say, and be like, give yourself kudos or grace for what you've done so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't even realize when she listed it herself, for one, it shows that she's been paying attention.
Right.
Two, it shows that I didn't even peep or realize, like, you did do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself kudos because you don't even realize you did do a lot within a span of like a year and a half.
Exactly.
Like, and that's a huge thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're our harshest critics. And we, as individuals, we tend to set our own bar so high versus like, how other folks kind of perceive it looking in. And we, as ambitious individuals, you're like, I've got goals I need to meet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work towards those goals. And I'm not going to really stop whatever else I'm doing. I want to accomplish this. So nothing's going to stand in your way.
Yeah.
And we tend to just be so narrowed and focused in that we forget everything else around. So it is that nice moment to pull away and look at it from a 360 view or, from behind. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. That is actually very true because I feel like a lot of us we don't take that moment of like truth of like, okay, like I feel like the ones that when we are so multitasked or if we're very busy or if we're very just in the spare of the moment, we don't take those pauses. And I feel like we don't take those pauses because we are so like in the moment that we're just living instead of like, hey, you did do this. Like, oh snap, do you remember? I sure did. So yeah, definitely having those moments.
It is. I mean, yeah, even as I sit here, I'm like, oh yeah, Hill, an accomplishment was you getting pulled onto a project 3 weeks to the deadline and being able to execute, like to implement, and it went well.
Yeah.
So I think there are some things that you just like forget. You just push to the side and you're like, oh wait, yeah, you did.
Like pat him on back. Yep.
Exactly. Gold star for me today, which I do love.
Yes, absolutely. Now, before we go, what are some questions you have for me?
What has been the most inspiring aspect of this podcast?
I feel like the most inspiring is to be able to sit down with people and just hear their beginning story. And I feel like a lot of people, when they sit down with me, or even listeners, when they sit down and really listen in or tune in or pay attention, we don't have those moments where we're so like life goes by so fast, time goes by so fast. But when we actually sit down and reflect from our past up until now, it makes us really like admire those accomplishments or those baby steps or the miniature goals or the big goals or like the big leaps of faith, all those good things that even if we had a lot going on in those moments, it's still a roller coaster. Life is always going to be a roller coaster without a doubt. But I feel like what really inspires me in the Elegance of Nae podcast is really seeing those moments come to light in my guest and also reflecting a little bit on me too, of really looking back like, wow, okay, you actually went through this. I came out of it. It was a tough moment, but look at me now. And that's always been a huge goal as well as me being the interviewer of my guests, being able for you to listen back to your podcast, to hear your growth. Because I eventually, years later, want to bring you guys back and have you listen to it all over again. Like, wow, look how far you came. Like, this is your beginning stage. Just like you just said, I want to start your business soon. You want to start your business soon, and it's coming. Shoot, you never know. 20 years later, when you come back for a recap episode, You're going to hear your first one and you're 20 years in doing
That's
amazing, doing lovely. And that's also a huge goal too. You like what is, listening back who you were then versus now. So that's a huge inspiration for me, being able to have that moment.
Oh, I just got goosebumps. That's so exciting. And I think what a beautiful way to capture like these particular moments are like this particular moment for that person today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really lovely.
Yeah. It's like a book, like a what's it called? An audio book for yourself. Because the title is literally introducing and then your name. So
My gosh.
it's like an audio book for yourself right now.
Could you imagine? It's like those folks who obviously write their own autobiographies and then that's their voice saying that. So yeah, we get to I think you're helping folks like reclaim right that piece of them and that kind of that story and that essence that is them too, right? It's the essence of Nae.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to throw one that you had asked me. What are your accomplishments?
Ooh,
I know.
my accomplishments. I would say my accomplishments is for me to be having. First of all, I was not ever expecting me to have 3 businesses ever in my life. I only thought of one, and that was TC's Art Gallery, which is my very first business. And to be reaching 3 years this year has been awesome.
Yes. Hey, congrats.
And learning so much from this business in itself. And then starting GHY and seeing the ball rolling like crazy this year for GHY. It's been amazing. For those that don't know, GHY is Grind and Hustle Youth. It's my mentoring program. And to be able to help others and based off of my resources or network and just really elevating a profession you can really be in and be devoted into it. And just to know that I can just be a part of your growth or just to help in general, not even like for me to, captivate your growth at all. Not like that. It's more so just seeing you elevate from a baby bloomer to an outstanding individual, even if you're older than me. Just to be able to know I help in a little way or in some way, or at least my connections helped you or inspired you to grow and elevate in the path that you didn't even think you probably wanted to go in, to just know that. And then for me to look back and see how far I've come as a woman, growing from a young lady into an elegant woman, it came a long way for me and growing into that. So just seeing those accomplishments and then me meeting so many people and really pushing myself and really being a boss, like a boss.
Okay.
So just being able to really captivate that and then just keep growing and going. I always say that. I always try to send friends KGG or just keep growing and going because we need those moments because we always don't know what part of our day will elevate us, uplift us, or it might set us back a little bit, but it made us learn and listen or pay attention to what was being brought into our faces. So I feel like,
yeah. Okay. Okay. I love that.
Yes.
I mean, it's true. And that's part of life. We're hoping that we're learning from all of these different experiences. But to your point, whether it's that continues to enhance and lift us up towards this way, or even if it is, a step back or something. And I remember recently, because we're in that season, right? Rejection. This is what my therapist and I usually talk about is like rejection. I am not a fan of it. Have never been. Sorry, everyone. It's just I try to avoid situations, which is why the whole entrepreneurship is hilarious. That I want to take that risk. But I'm finally able to be like, it's not a rejection, it's all a redirection. And it's something to learn from, and we don't learn if we're not going to put ourselves out there that way. And
Absolutely.
so that's amazing that it's not just one business, it's 3. And each one is helping and supporting people in various different ways.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure each one of my businesses show how big my heart is. Because I remember being asked you already have a big heart. How do you have time for particular things, whether it's myself, whether a relationship, whatever? And I'm like, if you already have a big heart, it's no question of it. It's already being shown. It's already being given. Because I am a type of person, I don't like negative energy. I like positive. I like being joyful. I like having fun, living life, and being confident in what I do. And to be able to inspire others to do the same, that shows everything. If my positive energy can rub off on others, that's showing elevation for sure. Especially nowadays, we need that.
Yes, we do.
We need the elegance. We need the gentleman. We need, being able to help with those things it plays a big part. So,
and it does.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even get to mention the third business is called Helping Hands Community. It's a nonprofit that I'm still working on because nonprofits take some time, guys. Trust me, it takes time.
That is true.
Yes. So, it's still a work in progress, but that particular company is dedicated to passing out weather-oriented baggies to the community or less fortunate, and just helping as many people as we can. Because what inspired me was last year during January, and it was freezing cold outside, and walking past so many people that were on the streets, balled up in corners, or having blankets over their heads, or don't have blankets at all, or their feet are, certain body parts or limbs are gone because they've been frozen off or whatever, or however it may be. And it just hurt me to see that. It hurt a lot. And I was like, I gotta help these people. Like, it really bothered me so bad. And I was like, why don't I just get a whole bunch of stuff, get a whole bunch of bags, put some things together, and just help as many as I can. And then also seeing kids too. That really got me too. Seeing kids out here trying to ask, can I help with something, or can you offer something? And it ruffles your feathers a little bit because it makes you want to help more. So I've learned to just wait, to not rush, because I learned if you try to rush something, it's not going to go through as elegant as you want it to be. It's going to look rushed, and it's going to look like it's going to fall apart. And I didn't want that to happen. So just want to make sure. And I learned that lesson with GHY. Trying to rush into it last year did not go as planned at all. So yeah, you live and you learn, and you learn from your mistakes.
That's all you can do.
Absolutely.
But also, again, what a beautiful, big, generous heart and kind heart that you have. Yeah. And however I can support you, just let me know, because it's definitely needed.
Yeah, I thank you for. Yeah, I definitely feel like it doesn't matter who you are. If you have a heart as well, if you love helping people, or if you even, I know we're all busy people, but people take out time for what they want to make time for. If you really want to help or elevate or just do anything that just lending a hand or just a little piece of time, because I know time is very expensive for all of us. So to take that time out, that plays a huge role too, and it'll show.
That it does.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any last few words that you would like to say before we close?
Just thank you so much for inviting me on.
Of course.
And for your patience and grace. Yeah, Nae and I were talking about this earlier. I would not have been probably as good of a guest earlier this year. And so I'm glad that the timing has worked out, that we could do this today. And so just thank you so much for having this platform and for telling your story and for supporting and sending out a lot of good, positive vibes to a lot of folks.
Yeah, thank you.
You are you are the light and a spark for a lot of people, and just greatly appreciative of that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Gosh, you're welcome. I appreciate you. I'll be seeing you around Bamboo.
Of course. All right, guys. Until next time, we'll see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
It's a wrap. It was great seeing you. We're so happy you joined us for this episode. Can't wait to see you next time. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And check out our information down below in the description. See you till next time. Bye.